I didn't really plan it this way, but that's how it's turned out on the table. Direct gas impingement versus piston-driven AR-15. At the top is an HOF player, Smith & Wesson M&P15, Once Upon a Time Magpul Edition. Magpul labeled low receiver if you care. I don't. And yes, I have made some lengthy modifications to the gun. I had an old alpha rail sitting around, so I threw that on. Magpul grip, MFT stock, bad lever, and EOIS. Oh yeah, checkmate muzzle device up front. Hall of Fame, man, all day long. That thing shoots easily into MOA. Mid-length gas system. What a great AR-15 it is. And if you're wondering, that's a really cool scope on. I think I've talked about it before, and I've labeled it like all cast members are getting now labels so I can talk about it on camera. Weaver 1-5 power 24 illuminated. It is number 800364. It's about 650 bucks. Red and green illumination 30 mil tube, 15 ounces. Good scope, not the only good scope out there, just one option. I bought it off Amazon. I'll put a link down there. It's a cool CQB scope, and that's what this particular gun is set up for, 50-yard CQB. But we're going to consider, actually, not the Smith & Wesson. It's just there more or less for eye candy, just to fill up void. We're going to talk about the Adams Arms AA15. And it is not direct gas impingement. It is piston-driven. What do you say about that? Well, if we were doing this video back in 2010, 29 maybe everybody be going, oh man, piston is where it's at. I've had this discussion on camera lots of times. I have a video out there on it, and I've always defended DI, even when it was not vogue to do so, when it was not fashionable to do so, and I caught a lot of crap for it, and I stuck to my guns like I always do. I just don't give a flying crap, to be honest, because truth is truth. And I said DI is not broken, it's not going anywhere, and I'm not selling my DI guns and suddenly running out and getting Adams Arms conversion kits to convert my Smith & Wesson AR to piston because I want to be cool, tactical. I don't give a crap. DI works great, super accurate, simple, no less moving parts. I love DI. And that has been borne out over the years as the trend now. It's funny how these trends come and go. Now it's swung back to direct gas impingement. Witness POF coming out with DI guns. The Renegade I just reviewed, and it's also HOF. Great gun. MOA. Subscribe to my Twitter feed because I posted the range results there. I talk to my guys on Twitter all the time. Adams Arms AA15. This is the basic model, I believe. They do have several variations, and from what I can tell, it's a pretty good gun. There are some things that surprise me in its shooting, which I'm going to share with you right now. But overall, I think it's recommended. My likability scale will kind of, drive to the very heart of the matter. It's always going to be in the description, and it's always subject to change according to what I find out, perhaps later. But for right now, I have a really good idea what I'm going to rate it as in my likability, and I will eventually do that in the description. Now, Adams Arms is very well known for their piston conversion kits, and they do supply such, I think, to other manufacturers, to include, if I'm not mistaken, Christensen Arms. Their CA15, which I reviewed a long time ago. That, I believe, is an Adams Arms piston kit in that very upscale AR, which I reviewed once upon a year. Philosophy of use will be standard. Add in, perhaps, for whatever reason you want a piston gun. If you've ever read online or anywhere that, for what it's worth, it actually is worth nothing, but in case you care, if anyone says, hey, Nutnfancy hates piston-driven AR-15s, that is not true. If they're as accurate, reliable, and as lightweight as a DI gun, I am totally on board with a piston. The fact is, they usually will miss out in one of those criteria, and the DI will win. And they're usually more expensive. Usually, not this one. This one at the gun store at the top, who made this review possible by this loaner gun, by the way. Go say hello to them. Thank them for helping this gun show freaking crank, by the way, these days. I mean, it is moving along. They're selling the Adams Arms AA15 for $725, and that's their everyday price, which is a value-priced AR-15, and it's a piston gun. I think piston does have advantages over DI when you suppress it, because you're going to get less blowback into your face, your noggin, less particulates. If you decide to go SBR, I think it's a better choice, because then you're not dealing with the location of the gas port of a DI system, the timing, the cyclic rate problems you'll have. This is not an SBR, obviously. I'm saying if you were to do that, then perhaps a piston gun is the best choice. This is a short stroke piston system this AA15 is using. And philosophy of use, other than that, will be standard WRL, RL, recreational, and all the other stuff we've talked about. I'm shorthanding a lot of that now and really condensing what has turned into a mass production gun show, which is cool. SAWC designer ergos on the Adams arms. I'm going to start off with weight, which they get right. It is 6 pounds 11 ounces with a 30 round. This is a 20. I think CMMG or C products.
That'll be better.
Yeah, that's a C products 20. I love that magazine, by the way. But with a 30 round GI, it's 6 pounds 11 ounces, minus 4 ounces if you took the mag out. That's really lightweight. So great job, Adams Arms. I mean, that is a piston gun that's getting a checkbox in a very important, area. Weight, lightweight, check. What you're looking at, other than the piston-driven system of the AA15, is actually, as you can tell, pretty basic. It has to be for the price point. You're not going to get a fancy muzzle device. You're not going to get a fancy handguard, pistol grip, or butt stock. You're going to get the core stuff, which is all Adams Arms piston, which is all Adams Arms, in a lot of ways, quality. We're going to talk about some other stuff, which I kind of have a reservation about, but I think it might be minor. Starting up front and going fast. A2 birdcage and a relatively thick barrel. I would say it's beyond mid profile. It's actually a relatively thick barrel. And keep in mind the weight. 6 pounds 11 ounces with the magazine. Now consider this. It does have an M4 oval single heat shield on the bottom only polymer handguard, and that saves a lot of weight. It does. As soon as you put on a free-floated handguard, that's a Troy Alpha Rail in there, you're going to add weight. Maybe with a super advanced one, maybe if it's made out of something like magnesium, super lightweight aluminum, not that much weight. But anytime you go with the standard polymer handguard, it's a weight saver. So I'm saying that because it's you just got to represent it. If you were to put a free float on here, we're not looking at 6'11", we're looking at 7.5. And then it's okay. It's not super exciting. Do you need a free floated handguard? I would say, and I've been saying this in some other AR-15 reviews, no, you don't. I like it because for bipod attachment, VG, maybe light attachment, it just makes that process simpler. But for accuracy, I see it's a rare day indeed that I feel like I have to have a free floated handguard. That revelation kind of came to me not with an AR-15, but with an AR-10 style rifle, the Smith & Wesson M&P 10, shooting it at 700 yards with a plastic handguard and hitting pretty much every shot. 308, I know. But still, it's not a free-floated handguard. And I did other shooting with non-free-floated handguards. I'm like, yeah, I'm hitting. If I'm shooting paper, I'm reviewing a gun, then I care a little bit more about accuracy, because it shows potential of the weapon, less deviation, less dispersion, and it minimizes human factor, stuff I've said before. This is your piston system here. There are 2 gas blocks, which Adams Arms does. This is a standard Picatinny rail gas block. It weighs about 5 ounces. It is adjustable. You can see the gas plug assembly there, which is removable for cleaning. And they say it is a self-cleaning gas system, and it has kind of a special way that it diverts gas out of the front to self-regulate, the Adams Arm system. And interestingly, since that is their bread and butter, a piston system for an AR, they kind of know about it. I mean, they've perfected it, and I think it's a really good gas system. Again, we'll talk about track record here in a second. I think it's good. Easily adjustable. It's really super pinned to the barrel. So we have cross pins, and we have like recessed screws going into the barrel. So that thing's going like nowhere. Standard delta ring. We talked about the handguard. I hate these big oval handguards. I just hate them. I'd much rather have a small, slender one. Speaking of which, if you plan on retrofitting this with a standard AR handguard, and it will fit, you need to go to Adam's website, and you're going to have to spend $140 and buy their extra low profile gas block, which, by the way, tonight is back ordered. So good luck. That allows for a standard AR-15 fitment to go over the piston assembly, and you'll lose your top pick rail for your front BUIS, obviously, but you'll be able to run a different handguard if that's important to you. Just something to think about. And they have some handguards right there on their website. Adams Arms does. I think I saw like a Samson Evo 12.4 there for like $185. Oh, whatever. It's okay handguard. That is definitely not my first choice. This, by the way, is serial number A is in Alpha Alpha 0002345. Reviewed for the Nutnfancy project. It will be for sale at the gun store I talked about, with a certificate of authenticity being the test bed for TMP. Standard forged lower, Serro forged marking on the lower. See the forged marking on the upper. I like forged over billet usually. The POF Renegade has a well done billet lower. It's probably the first one I've liked, but man, I like forge all day long. This one does have some forged in chevrons. It's for looks. It does nothing for traction. It's just eye candy. Has some more significant beveling of the lower than a lot of ARs do. Standard trigger guard. You might want to put a mag pull enlarged on there if you want. Start tricking it out. And the trigger sucks. It's a standard military specification, crappy, gritty AR-15, all-day reliable trigger. Would I change it? Yeah. Pulls about 7 pounds. But triggers, I mean, you can get a really good trigger for $125. You can. Is it worth it to me? Yeah, it is. I would do it. Standard fire controls, AR-15 controls, forward assist, shell deflector, dust cover, wow, 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 all that. A2 pistol grip. I can run it, but I usually don't. I'll get rid of it. I have been defending of late a standard M4 6-position stock. I actually like them. They're super light. They're obviously good enough for the freaking military, right? And so here it is on a value price point AA15. Notice this though, it is tight and it's kind of sticky on this particular example. I think that is a mil-spec buffer tube, in case you're wondering. No sling plate there by the castle nut to attach something to, but it's a value priced AR. Standard charging handle. This is just a test scope. I think it's actually up for sale in our web store because I've been upgrading to 30mm tubes for longer range, because this is a 1-inch tube and I have to use a very expensive Night Force base for it so I can get out to 700 yards with an AR out to 6. And so if you want to buy it, it's a great scope. It's a Nikon Buckmasters, and I Duracoated it, so it's coated. Love that scope. But yeah, I find that 30mm tubes just make better reviewing scopes. Let's go on to firepower. Normal. Every magazine we used with it seemed to work as far as the magazine goes, but that will take us, I guess, to reliability. We had problems with steel, and actually quite a few problems. If I remember right, because we do test batches of guns now in this mass production sequence of TMP, it was hard jammed, and so I had to break out the clean rod, if I remember right. If I don't, I apologize. And I'll show you footage of that, and we had to tap it out. So it would not clear. It's Wolf ammo. I know Wolf is underpowered. It's dirty. I'm actually running out of my stash of Wolf, so you may see less and less of it in testing. But it's a great test for a piston-driven, heck, for that matter, a DI-driven AR-15. Wouldn't you agree?
Trying to get that in there.
It is. And so it choked. I will say, by way of disclosure, that I did not dink around with the gas settings to see if I could tweak it to work, because I just didn't have a lot of time. We had other guns on the dock at the crew and I, and so we just run it as it comes out of box, and it had some problems. So take it for what it's worth. When we took it with brass, it was 100%. I do kind of level a very harsh criticism against a DI gun that will not run brass. That's, for a DI gun, to me, that's a showstopper. I mean, something is jacked up with that, and it should just work, but oftentimes it doesn't. I've come to expect with some piston-driven ARs that with steel ammo, it doesn't expand to grab onto the case walls. And there's chamber dimensional issues. This is a 5.56 chamber, by the way. Yeah, I kind of expect them that it'll be hit and miss. The SR 5.56 was hit and miss. Some other piston ones I've tried were hit and miss. And I bring it to the table, I'll let you decide. For me, I'm not, if I could not get this to work with steel, it's a showstopper. I'll say that. As a survival WRL gun, it's just a showstopper. Will I run steel with it? No. I'll run brass, man. I don't like running steel through my barrels, to be honest with you. I just do it, you know, to save money, and then as a testing protocol, pretty much. My suspicion is this, is I could probably get this running with steel by dinking with a gas system. I could be totally off on that. Accuracy. Luckily, and I'm so happy, I only have one piece of paper to show you on the Adams Arms AA15, and it's okay. It doesn't super excite me though. TAC A gets a down arrow, and by the way, tacticalammunition.com 77 grain load is amazingly consistent. It is one of the most accurate 77 grain loads I've ever fired. It's just really excellent. It's not the fastest load out there, but dang does it tight, tighten up the groups. I'm giving it a down arrow because a really good AR should shoot that into half MOA. And here we are looking at about a 2-inch group. Also, Federal 69 grain gold medal match, unimpressive. That's the best group I could get out of that. Tacticalammunition.com 55 right here, shooting really well, and that also is a very consistent ammunition. TAC A, it's always been super accurate. There's another good group. Another good group. Very good group with 55 grain. I'm right here, 1.5 MOA is possible. This is in September. I agree with that. TAC A, American Eagle 55, PMC 55. I did not see anything, maybe this one, that was an MOA group, but my overall feeling is with really good ammunition it likes, not MOA, 1.5 MOA. So I would call the accuracy good. Good. Field strip we did already, kind of standard. Accessories, the low profile gas block, front handguard, you'll have to decide on that. Muzzle device, all the stuff you may or may not do to your AR. I'm advocating more and more these days, and I actually have always done this, is if you plan on putting a lot of accessories on it, kind of like I did with this one, but a lot of these were left over out of the box. I didn't go out and buy them, but if you go out and buy them, then maybe that's a fool's errand for value. You might want to buy it as you want it, and maybe go with a higher end variation of the Adams Arms AA15 if you want that piston gun. Change whatever you want there. Value, $725. And that's subject to change, by the way. $725 is a good price. Really good price. For a piston-driven AR-15 with Adams reputation, yeah, it wasn't ultimately accurate, which is kind of a piston thing that I see. It's rare I bring a piston gun to the table that I go, dang, this thing's accurate. There are a couple exceptions. Not an AR-15, but the SIG MCX is very accurate. It is MOA accurate with good ammunition that it likes with really good stability. Yeah, so the criteria I listed when you're talking about going up against a vaunted, like this one, direct gas impingement AR, again, size, weight, does it meet it? Yeah, this meets it. Accuracy, does it meet it? No, it doesn't. This one is supremely accurate. That's actually, I said MOA, it can actually go below MOA with loads it really likes, so it doesn't meet that. Value, yep, it meets that. And then reliability, it didn't meet that. So maybe 2 out of 4 for the Adams Arms AA15 to my criteria, to where I would be, oh, dude, I totally want that gun. I totally want that gun. And there's a lot of piston options out there for time and length on a relatively short GRV. I'm not going to go into it. Out.